where we're joined in the heart of Mayfair with Mr. Nick Matthew, the current world #1 squash champion. We're very honoured because today is the first day of the British Open, and this is the business end of Nick's season, but he's taken time out to speak to Sportsvibe. So welcome, Nick, and you've won the British Open twice, haven't you? Is it fair to say that probably, certainly in our eyes, it's second only to the World Championship in terms of prestige?
Yeah, definitely. It's been an honour to get my name on such a prestigious trophy. You know, there's some fantastic names in the world of squash, in the world of sport that are on there. You know, Jonah Barrington, Jeff Hunt, Jahangir, Jansher Khan, some amazing names, and it's been an honour to have my name on that twice. And you know, it's a tournament that's had great tradition, and it's finally back on now after a couple of years of hiatus. And you know, it's a great venue in the O2, and can't wait to get started.
Now, you are the double world champion, defending world champion, 2010, 2011. When and where are the world championships this year?
The Worlds this year are in Qatar in December, and then next year they're in Manchester, so a couple of things to look forward to there. And the Worlds is alongside the British as sort of the two biggest titles in our sport.
And you have been world #1, you're actually world #2 behind another Brit, let's be even more specific, another Yorkshireman, your great rival James Willstrop, and he's actually #1 at the moment. And I guess, although there'll be plenty of other people wanting to knock you off the perch, if you get past him this week, you're not going to be far off winning, are you?
Sure. I mean, James has been so consistent over the last 12 months, and that's why he deserves to be #1. You know, you can win a major title like this on having a great week, but to be #1 in the world, you have to be the best player for 12 months, and that's what James has been. And I think his consistency, if you do beat him in a tournament, you're going to be not far from winning it, as you say.
Now, you and James are not just a media dream, but actually a sports dream, because everybody loves a rivalry. I think today you were described as the Co and Ovett of world squash. Do you like that?
I like it, yeah. Jonah Barrington said that, which was an honour, because anything that Jonah says, anyone listens. You know, everyone listens. He's the type of name that sort of transcends the sport of squash, really. You know, if myself or James sort of went anywhere near to achieving sort of what he'd done, then we'd have had an amazing career. You know, he's just a legend, and anything that he says, he's always has that great feel to it. And he didn't say who was who though, so next time I see him, I'll ask him which one he sort of sees me as.
The funny thing is, it's very hard being the world champion, it's very hard being British champion. Quite clearly it's very hard being Yorkshire champion, because you're from Sheffield, he's from?
Leeds.
Oh, well, it's a Leeds-Sheffield thing as well.
It is, and
good for you though, isn't it, really?
It's great. We had a nice piece on the BBC the other day, sort of, as you said, rivalries are what sort of make sport. There's a long way to go before we can meet, but whenever there's the possibility of us sort of being having those meetings, always get that buzz, and it's great for the sport. I wouldn't be where I am without James, and vice versa. So that rivalry, it's sometimes got a bit of friction to it, but it's always good for the sport.
Well, I wasn't going to mention that, but since you have, yes, it has been a little bit prickly from time to time. Is that almost inevitable, because you're both massively competitive, and you both basically want what each of you, well, even now each of you've got a world title, he's got the world #1 ranking.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think the nature of squash, very gladiatorial. You're in each other's space, but you're not physically allowed to sort of hit each other, if you like, like harm each other in the boxing type of sense. You know, there's not many sports where you're in that same space, but you can't physically sort of like take your opponent on as such. So, you know, there's a lot of strategy, but at the same time you are in each other's face, and there's bound to be sort of a little bit of friction, stepping on each other's toes and whatnot. But I think over the past few years it's benefited us more than it's sort of hindered us, that rivalry. You know, we've not made it personal, it's very sort of professional, and hopefully there's more stages of that to come, that rivalry to come.
Well, you're double Commonwealth champion, you were double world champion, you've previously been a double British champion, so you've been there and done it. What is the state of squash right now, in your opinion, both in the world and also in this country? Commonwealth's great, let's talk about Olympics. Where has the sport come on a lot since you started?
For sure. I think one of the questions I get asked most frequently is why squash is not in London 2012, and the only answer I can think of is I'm part of the 2020 bid currently, and we're trying trying to start the bid process now 8 years out in advance. So squash was obviously voted not to go in the Olympics 2004-2005 time, and I think back to where the sport was then compared to where it is now, and the strides that have been taken have been massive. You know, the TV coverage, the way it's portrayed over TV, which is probably the most important thing these days, and you know, it ticks all the other boxes, always has done. You know, the health, exercise side of it, the how it can showcase host cities, things like that. So I think the TV side of things is what sports needed to grow, and in that sort of 7-8 year period, we're ready now to step into the Olympics, and that's all that the sport is missing really, because the product's fantastic now.
So what are you going to be doing during the 2012 Olympics? Will you really enjoy it? Will you be a tad frustrated perhaps that you're not actually competing?
I'm trying to be really positive about it, because it's not so much, it's not the Olympics that squash sort of has a problem with. We love it, we just want to be a part of it, so there's no point feeling sort of bitter. I've got a lot of friends who will be competing there, and I think I wouldn't be human if I didn't look on with a tinge of jealousy, but trying to be positive. My girlfriend is involved with the GB cycling, track cycling team.
Well, tell us more.
Just one of the sports scientists behind the team,
right.
So she keeps in the sort of in the background, but you know, she's part of a very successful team, obviously. So
absolutely,
trying to be sort of supportive of her, and hopefully I might see a little bit of that myself, and try and support her from that side of it. Really.
Well, you'll be representing the city of Sheffield this week, and I would suggest that the Steel City can lay claim to being the sporting centre of perhaps England. I mean, there's yourself, there's the wonderful Jess Ennis, there's all the boxers who are up there at the moment in the Institute of Sport.
Sheffield Wednesday, of course.
Well, okay, I was going to get onto that. I was going to ask, are you an owl or blade? But the answer's beaming all over your face.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some good friends at Sheffield United. The McCabe family looked after me at a game not too long ago, so I'm a big Wednesday fan, but I hope both teams go up, and sort of Sheffield deserves 2 teams in at least the Championship, if not the Premiership. As you saw, 38,000 was at Hillsborough last week.
That's amazing, isn't it?
And, you know, that's Premiership crowd, so hopefully we can do a Norwich and a Southampton and go straight up.
Hand on your heart, when they sacked Gary Megson, when Sheffield Wednesday were 4th, were they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you think, good call, this is going to work well?
Not really. I was sort of thought that Megson had turned the club around well and had done a good job, but obviously you can't argue with what Dave Jones has done since he's come in, so it's obviously a brave call, but a good one.
So Nick, big week, you've been here before, you need to get your British Open title back, don't you?
Yeah, well, I'm the current holder, but obviously with it not being on since 2009, you know, it's fantastic to have this big tournament back, and I don't feel like I'm the defending champion. It feels like everyone's starting from a clean slate, and excited to get going now. And
you're 31 now, aren't you? A very youthful 31.
Youthful, yeah, exactly.
In the shelf life of the best squash player in the world, how long have you got?
Good question. Ask me this time next year. I'm not sure. I don't sort of like. I keep changing my mind on whether I want to decide when's a good time to go out. There's Glasgow Commonwealth Games, for example, that might be a good time to finish. But whilst I'm still sort of feeling good, I don't want to sort of start planning too much and just try and play to the best of my level. And as long as I'm training well, I think that's the side of it. The tournament stuff is easy because that's where you sort of get the glory, if you like. But the behind the scenes, you know, hard work is where if I still want to get out of bed in the morning and train and put that work in, then I'm happy to do it as long as my body and mind want to. Fantastic. Well, the Owls are in the Championship. Nick Matthew going for the British Open title. Could be a good couple of weeks, eh?